All right, everybody. Oh my god. So I just came back from the gym. So I'm gonna be eating some stuff just for you have to have protein or whatever. Um, Let me give you guys two late points. This is really becoming a problem. I gotta lock in. Where are we even at now? Oh my god, this is not good. This is really not good. All right, we're almost at another penalty. Here we go. 146. Okay. All right. All right. We're gonna swap one of these. Let's do this today. We're gonna swap one of these out for a different thing. We're gonna swap one of these penalties out for a different penalty. Um. Tia, thanks for two. I like how neither the Blackbeard Pirates or the Holy Knights impress you. I mean, they both suck. Well, how to explain this? I think that the Holy Knights are going to be. The Blackbeard Pirates suck right now. They just fundamentally do. They do, I think, but they're supposed to be a work in progress. I think there are some Blackbeard Pirates that are really cool. Like Van Augur, Lafitte. It kind of ends there. That's basically it. Yeah, that's the squad of Blackbeard Pirates that's not terrible. The the Holy Knights are in a really tricky spot right now because I think that they are. How to explain? The Holy Knights are exactly as strong as it makes sense for them to be for this stage of the story, right? Because they are ultimately. They're not. Like in the hierarchy of bad guys, right? In the hierarchy of bad guys. Here, let me make a little. You know what? No, we're pulling out the paint. We're pulling out the paint. Yeah, in the hierarchy of bad guys, right? The God's Knights are just uh it's not three, it's 2 points. It's 2 points. Um right, so wait, what's going on? What's the issue? Why are you guys confused? Oh, Chris Morales says more. Check out Arthur's interactive map of the One Piece world. Way more interesting than to talk about villain groups for the 100th time. So I'm actually gonna bring. So Arthur's messaged me about this already. So I was gonna do a stream with him to go over it. That was all. That's actually already a thing. Here, let me see. Let me see our last message. He said, "Hey man, releasing Sunday. If you still want to do that stream, yeah, okay. Um, I can do a stream with him next Monday. That could be fun. We can make that next Monday stream. Just didn't coordinate it with him, but I spoke with Arthur a couple 2 weeks back now, 3 weeks back. Yeah, so he said that he can hop on a stream for us to kind of go over that with chat. He previewed me the map. The map is like I don't even know how to describe. It is beyond, like, how do I explain this? Shueisha should pay him for this map. Oda should pay him for this. Whoever, Viz, whatever. Somebody should pay him. It is so absurdly detailed because it's not just the islands. When he first showed me it, I was like, oh my god, this is crazy. The islands are, so, like, everything is so detailed, so well done, etc. with the islands. But then he was like, no, that's just like the tip of the iceberg, right? So not only did he map out all the islands, if you click on any island, you, how to explain this? If you click on any island, you then get like a full-on map of the island as well, right? So if you click on Alabasta, then you get a full-on map of Alabasta. If you click on Wano, you get a full-on map of Wano. And then you can go further and further. Like, you can click on just Onigashima and get a full-on map of Onigashima. It's pretty crazy. Camera's frozen? How's the camera frozen? What the fuck? Oh my god. Alright, let's add this shit. Hold on. Okay, don't know why that happened. Let me remove this shit. Okay. Yep, don't know why that happened. Sorry, guys. Let's get rid of the old one. Yeah, his map's really cool. We can go over that next week. We can do that. We can make that a next week thing. We can make that a next week thing. I think that'll be fun. Um, 3 late points. It's not 3 late points. It's not 3 late points. Here, I'll schedule with him for next week. I'll make a note for myself. 1 second. What the fuck? All right, here. Let me add it here too. There we go. All right. All right, make it seamless. All right, cool. 1 second. Okay. All right, continuing on. Grizzly Adams, thanks for the 5. Shiryu is cool until you realize that it seems like he's supposed to fight Zoro. The rest aren't really cool, but they're fun. Yeah, that's the thing. The rest are, no, like, Shiryu would have been a cool opponent for Zoro, like, 4 arcs ago. Something like that, you know? Like, end of story? I don't know about that. End of story, not even, there's no discussion. Like, it's just so... There's such a gap in, like, not even strength, right? Like, let's say Shiryu got artificially boosted through, whatever, Holy Knight Pacts and Omen or something. Like, let's say just magically, like, Shiryu gets, like, 5 boosts. Just as a character, he has so much less aura than someone like Mihawk. There's no fun to it, you know? There's nothing. It just feels like this would be Zoro's final opponent. Doesn't feel right. Yeah. You know what? I can do this. Let me send Arthur a message right now to ask him if he wants to hop on now. If he doesn't want to hop on now, if he does not want to hop on now, then we will do next Monday's stream. Hold on. I usually don't check messages over the weekend, so I should have responded to this earlier. All right, let's see. If you wanna, if yeah, yeah, you know what? We'll just wait and see. We'll wait and see for his responses. I think. Where did I lose my train of thought? I was talking about the Holy Knights. Okay, here we go. So, assuming all technical stuff is covered. Okay, so with the Holy Knights, the thing is that they don't need... There was never any point where it made sense for the Holy Knights to actually be like all Admiral level characters or anything like that, okay? Because at the end of the day, you've got the standard situation of like, you got the boss, then you got the core subordinates, right? And then you got the second tier subordinates, right? So like, you know, in most situations that would be like, you know, Yonko, commanders, Example, calamities, sweet commanders, etc. And then you would have after that officers, right? Toby Ropo, Big Mom veterans, Big Mom chess pieces. Not chess pieces, you know what I mean. Big Mom, Rook, Knight, etc. So the Toby Ropo were always going to be in, this group. This was always going to be the Toby Ropo. This is what the Gorsay are, right? So it wouldn't make sense for the world government to have 13 admiral level characters again under Emu. The good guys would never be able to win. Okay? So the strength that the God's Knights have, I think, is fine in the sense that, Gunko, really strong. Gunko fucked up pretty much half a Yonko crew by herself, Killing him, actually technically crazy strong if you consider him a backline fighter more than anything, right? His MMAs can solo the entire nation of Hellbath, right? His MMAs create the strongest army ever. Sommers is not we haven't seen anything to indicate that Sommers himself is actually weak. He just loses to characters like fucking Prime Rayleigh, Prime Rayleigh, Gaban, Luffy, Loki, stuff like that, right? So it's not really his fault. It would be if the Gorsay are getting this treatment, that would be bad, right? And the weakest Gorsay was Saturn, and even he didn't go down easy. Still kind of easy for Luffy, but you know what I mean. So the Holy Knights, my issue with them isn't how strong they are. It's the fact that for them to work at peak capacity, it's pretty much entirely just an extension of Emu's strength. So it doesn't even feel like they are their own subordinate group. It feels like they're just an extension of Emu, which to me is not as interesting or not exciting for a villain group. One Piece, One Life, thanks for the 5. Yo, More, just graduated college yesterday, and now I can spend more time on content. Oh, congrats! That's better than me, because when I was in college, I was the biggest waste of... College was such a... When I was in college, for me, it was the flip side in that, whoa, I'm away from home now. I can spend all day just watching shows, reading manga, watching whatever the fuck movies. I watched freshman year of college, I watched so many movies because I would go down to the library. College, you have a library where they got a crazy selection of movies. And yeah, it was the best. You could just go and just rent movies and watch them. This might sound stupid, but they have truly a crazy good collection of movies. So and it's completely free, so I'm not paying a subscription or anything. So I just go rent rent however many movies and then just watch them. This is where I really expanded the types of movies that I would watch, if that makes sense. So I started watching a lot of older movies, stuff like that. Yeah, college, and then I think senior year of college, junior year of college, a lot of anime and manga. College I basically treated as the opportunity to get to do whatever I want. Lots of TV, movies, manga, etc. Yeah, it was a good time. But you did it right. You graduated college, and now you can spend more time on content. That's great. Also, my personal favorite group, as far as dynamics together, is Kaido's crew. Kaido's crew is pretty great, dynamics-wise. Dynamics-wise, they're pretty great. So one thing I want to think about before we get into this is, do we want to separate out, with the Celestial Dragons, is the Gorsay and the Holy Knights two separate groups, or is it one group? Is it one group or is it separate groups? GDYY7 says, I don't know why Oda went the reverse order of progression when introducing the Celestial Dragon forces. We should have seen the Holy Knights in action first before the Gorsay and finally Emu. To be fair, I think we are getting Emu last, right? Because we got Gorsay, then we got some Holy Knights, then we're getting Emu. In general, it's not like Oda goes from like lowest to highest. It depends. I feel like lots of times he does. I think the simple reason why is because... Here's the simple reason why, right? Because that's a good question. Simple reason why is because, like, let's go back in time, right? With other times that Oda's kind of done this, where it's like a progression, right? It's been, let's say, Baroque Works, right? With Baroque Works, Oda could do a kind of progression because legitimately the lower ranked agents were still threats to the Straw Hats, right? Even like Mr. 3, someone that Crocodile claims is below even Mr. 4 in terms of combat strength, even someone like Mr. 3 and Ms. Golden Week, they were strong enough to serve as arc villains and give Luffy and the crew a decent challenge. Like, Luffy versus Mr. 3 wasn't like one of Luffy's hardest fights or anything, but Mr. 3 didn't just roll over. Like, that was a fight for Luffy. That was comparable to his East Blue opponents, you know? Like, you can go from there and then move up a notch, and it's like, okay, now it's time to meet the top agents and the boss and everything like that, right? Similar thing with, like, let's say Kaido and the Beast Pirates, right? So with Kaido and the Beast Pirates, we are first meeting characters like, you know, like Jack. No, actually, you know what? With Kaido and the Beast Pirates, it's a similar situation. Here, so the simple rule I'm getting to is like, whoever Oda's introducing, like, to make the villain organization or the villain group feel formidable, it has to, they have to be strong enough to be a threat for a given arc, right? So, like, think about it like this. Let's say we swap the order and you did the Holy Knights first and then the Gorsay. It just doesn't work because the Holy Knights are not strong enough to be a villain group for Luffy and the Straw Hats post-Wano, right? Sure, an individual Holy Knight like Gunko can take out the mid-tier members of the Straw Hats. It's implied she's one of the strongest Holy Knights, right? But at the end of the day, like, even Sommers and like, they're aware. They outright say, we don't want to fuck with, like, a Yonko. You know, we don't want to fuck with a Yonko and his whole crew and everything like that, right? The Straw Hats coming out of Wano, if they were faced with the Holy Knights in Egghead just has no sort of, like, they wouldn't, like, Kizaru would be the main focus, right? Not the Holy Knights, right? The way Oda did it for this is right in the sense that the Gorsay are the Holy Knights are not going to be strong enough on their own to make for a fitting threat for the Straw Hats. Therefore, Oda dropped the Gorsay on Egghead Island. And the 5 Gorsay, they are strong enough that it was like, okay, this is a fitting caliber threat for the Straw Hats right here. Even though they're a Yonko crew and everything, even Luffy can't just, like, can't just beat up the strongest Gorsay members, you know? It was made pretty clear that the Straw Hats could not defeat the Gorsay at Egghead. They had to run away, and they got bailed out by the Haki Knot. Now, I'm not saying that the Gorsay were perfectly, like, were done justice, because I think that they kind of... Oda still fumbled their threat in a sense, but, and especially because he had the Straw Hats get bailed out by the Haki Knot, so it was very anticlimactic how that whole situation was resolved. But at the same time, you need, like, the Straw Hats have just defeated the Beast Pirates, right? So to continue to have threats for them, right, you need to bring in the big guns the next arc, the Gorsay, right? Then after that, in Elbaf, Oda brought in both the Holy Knights and Emu, and I think that's effective to do it in that staggered order, because it's like, okay, first, the top subordinates, the Gorsay, come through. Okay, that's too much for the whole Straw Hats right now, you know, but it establishes the Gorsay are pretty strong. Even if Oda kind of has them get clowned on a little bit, we see that the Straw Hats ultimately could not have beaten the Gorsay straight up, right? Then you get to the next arc, and now Oda, he kind of does a route where he's kind of subverting expectations, where first it does seem like the Holy Knights are going to be the main villains of the arc, right? So the Holy Knights are introduced, right? And, you know, they're strong, and it seems like they're strong. The strongest one, Shamrock, leaves. But then as the arc progresses, it starts to feel like, okay, the Holy Knights, they're not that big of a threat. What's Oda doing here? And then Oda has the twist where it's like, yeah, the Holy Knights, they're not enough of a threat for this arc. I'm bringing in Emu here, right? So it works in that sense, right? Like, it works in the sense that, like, we dealt with this group, first, and we saw how strong they are, right? The next arc, it's like, oh, we're turning it down a bit. Okay, it's just the Holy Knights. Okay, we can handle that. We get an idea that they're strong, but not, they're not going to be able to take down Yonko or whatever. But then you drop an Emu on top of that, and Elbaf kind of establishes, I think it establishes how strong each group needs to be for the final war perfectly fine. So I think I disagree with you there. I would say that the times that Oda has done like a true escalation of like, okay, first you meet the weakest characters first, then you go up further. It was really just Baroque Works, because in Baroque Works, the scale worked properly in the sense that, like, yeah, the Strats could like beat up Mr. 5 and them over here without trouble, but then you move up to Mr. 3, and Mr. 3 is actually strong enough to give some trouble. And then you get to the final arc, which is like Crocodile, Mr. 1, all of those top tier characters that are real trouble, right? With the Holy Knights, it wouldn't really work like with the Celestial Dragons, it wouldn't work like that because like Luffy's strength is already pretty high, right? So you can't have a true sort of like you can't save the strongest subordinates, the Gorsay, for over here. You need to insert them earlier. If we look at the Kaido Beast Pirate situation, right? It's kind of the same reasoning that like when Luffy arrives in Wano, Oda doesn't have an escalation for Luffy. He just has Kaido. You could technically count Hold'em, but that's like nothing, right? It's not like Oda goes through the route of like, okay, first Luffy will fight Tobiropo, and then he'll fight the Calamities, and then Kaido. Luffy's already strong enough when he arrives in Wano that it's like, give him Kaido, right? Just give him Kaido. That's the one thing that'll really be a problem for him, like truly he won't be able to handle. So it kind of makes sense if you look at it like that. It just has to be tailored to where the Strats are in the story. Anyway, Crown versus, he should have introduced Shamrock alongside with them. Yeah, maybe. We don't know how strong Shamrock is, though, right? So it's possible, like we don't know how strong Oda wants to make Shamrock. Can Shamrock alone be, like, a major problem for the Strats and Luffy? I don't know. I think it's a great swap, like a bait and switch, that Oda introduced Shamrock at the start, where it's like, okay, we got it made us feel like the problem for the arc is going to be Shamrock plus the Holy Knights, right? That feels like it could be a similar sort of level of difficulty as the Beast Pirates, but then Oda does a trade, and he's like, no, Shamrock's gone, and actually Emu's coming in, and then that spikes the stakes a lot. So what it does effectively is that it's good for Elbaf. It's better for Elbaf to do it like that, to like swap out, a character that we all thought was like a decent threat for the arc in Shamrock, and then drop in instead a character that's like a crazy strong threat. It's good for Elbaf. It's not the best for the Holy Knights' perception in the grand scheme of things, because the Holy Knights essentially don't get a real period in the story where they're getting an extended period of hype. Like, as it turned out, that initial section of Elbaf where the Holy Knights like first start their plan, and like the MMAs are going crazy and they're kidnapping the kids and everything like that, and Gunko solos the Straw Hats, that was pretty much the most effective the Holy Knights were ever going to look. Because then even once we go to the flashback with Rocks, the most hyped up Holy Knight up till that point, Garling, he gets fucking off-screen low diffed or something like that by Rocks, hype tooled for Rocks, Now people are shifting and they're like, well, okay, maybe Garling wasn't the guy, maybe it's going to be Shamrock. Shamrock's where the real action's at. Tom, thanks for the 2. I still believe Saturn greater than Kizaru. It's very implied. I would say that during the arc, Saturn is portrayed as the boss, kind of, for like, because he literally is the boss, right? During the arc, I think Oda is kind of like trying to portray Saturn in a scarier light than Kizaru. And he gives him more fanfare and just like aura in general. But then that quickly starts to fall apart, like as Egghead goes on. Like, Saturn quickly becomes overshadowed by all the other Gorsay. Saturn repeatedly struggles to actually be like a combat threat consistently. And then we get the implication as the arc goes along that Kizaru isn't really giving it his all. And I think you can I guess what I would say is that in the moment, within the arc itself, right? I think sometimes Oda tries to do things where, like, within a storyline itself, he's gonna give hype and portrayal to the characters that he's invested in building up in that time, right? So therefore, even if Kizaru ultimately is a stronger character than Saturn, within Egghead, there was a strong streak of chapters, and you can go read people's comments and stuff. It feels like Saturn is actually supposed to be the bigger threat than Kizaru, right? It's as the arc hits its ending section and then things are moving along, then it starts to feel like, okay, Saturn is kind of the runt of the litter when it comes to the Gorsay, and it's becoming more clear that Kizaru is probably still the bigger threat. Like, it's just Kizaru is kind of he's going through his own character shit at the moment, So, it's kind of like, how do I say this? If you were to read Marineford, you would read Marineford and be like, okay, Oda's pretty much portraying all of the Admirals as stronger than Mihawk, right? But as the story continues on, it becomes very doubtful that all the Admirals are stronger than Mihawk, But for that arc, it does feel, portrayal-wise, and that was a common opinion at the time, that Mihawk might be just about Admiral level, maybe less, because Marineford just didn't really paint him in that light. Oda wasn't focused on giving Mihawk the best portrayal in Marineford. He was focused on really making the Admirals look cool, making Whitebeard look cool, stuff like that. Let's get stream likes up to 50 real quick. I have no response for Arthur, so this might be a next Monday thing, so we'll have to see. Tiptio, thanks for being a Pirate King tier member for 13 months, man. I hope you enjoyed the last Pirate King podcast, man. In One Piece, the tiers for power scaling is much closer than in series like Naruto or Bleach, and Oda doesn't want old characters to be hype tools, so he makes ways to make sure past characters don't look bad. Yeah, I definitely agree. That's Oda's biggest thing that makes it really hard to scale at the top level. At the top, like, I think the lower down the tier list you go, Oda's more okay with characters being, like, hard capped. Like, Oda's okay with cleanly establishing, like, okay, Marco can't beat... No, you know what? What's a better example? Like, Oda's okay with showing, like... what's a good example? Green Bull or something. Oda's clear with okay with showing, like, a hard cap, or like the Revolutionary Army commanders or something like that, right? It's as you go up higher in the story, I think the strongest characters are generally some of Oda's favorite characters, right? Because a lot of the strongest characters in One Piece tend to embody some of Oda's favorite ideals at their most absolute form, okay? And so with those characters, Oda doesn't want them to make them look bad, so he will have them in fights and situations with other strong characters, but he always wants an out, which makes it really hard to scale properly, Like, it's like, well, this happened with Garp and Aokiji, but, you can make arguments for both Garp and Aokiji while it's not representative of this or that, because at the end of the day, Oda doesn't want either of the characters to really look bad, And yeah, I agree that in One Piece, the tiers for power scaling are much closer than in series like Naruto or Bleach. I think that is largely because there's so many characters in One Piece. There's so many characters in One Piece. I think that's just the case. Like, there's so many characters that we get to a point where it's like, before, if you look at pre-time skip, so, not pre-time skip, if you were part of, like, if you were looking at discussions and stuff coming out of Marineford, right? Coming out of Marineford, there wasn't, like, a separation between tiers, between, like, Yonko commanders. It was kind of like, Marco, Jozu, they feel like the same tier, stuff like that. But as the story goes on and you get more and more characters, the more characters you get, it's the same with any data set, right? The more the more of a sample size you get, the more data points you get, the more you want to divide further and further. Because, like, there's a big difference between, like, let's say you've got, like, let's say you've got like 20 characters, or like let's say you got like let's say you got 20 characters, and it's like, okay, let's shift these into like 4 or 5 tiers or something like that, or 4 tiers or something. That feels okay, right? Versus like, let's say you got like 1,500 characters, then it's like, okay, 4 tiers seems like really poor organization, right? We can probably find more and more ways to categorize this. So I would say it's more because of that than anything else. It's just more characters. But I agree with what you're saying. Ender, thanks for being a Pirate King tier member for 44 months, man. A monthly reminder to play Lies of P. And at this point, is there anything that can be done to unequivocally make Elbaf Bumslop's arc even more so than Whole Cake Island with Sanji's arc? Bumslop's arc has been an all-time disappointment so far for him. Ender Anami, thank you for being so eloquent as usual. Thanks for being a Pirate King tier member for so long, man. And I hope you did enjoy the last Pirate King podcast. I don't think there's any way that Elbaf can be more Usopp's arc than Whole Cake Island with Sanji's arc. I think that ship has sailed definitively. I think that ship has definitely sailed. I do still think that Usopp can have some great moments in this arc, and maybe that's all that he needs. I don't know. At this point, I'm hoping that this arc is bigger for him than Dressrosa was. That's the bare minimum I'm hoping for, you know? Also, let's get the stream likes up to 50 real quick. Julian Reed, thanks for the 2. Kobe low diff Saturn. I don't think so. Like, legitimate, I think it's easy to forget, but Saturn wasn't actually a joke. Like, if we're being, like, sincerely, Saturn essentially low diffed Sanji, right? So I don't see what Kobe's doing against him. You could make the argument that Sanji had more success against Kizaru than he did against Saturn. I'm not saying Kizaru's weaker than Saturn. I'm just pointing out that I think it's easy to forget the fact that Saturn, towards the end of the arc, looked like a punching bag, to confuse that with thinking that Saturn just throughout the arc was, like Saturn overall was very weak. That's not really accurate. I also think, I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that Saturn did more damage to Luffy in Gear 5 than Kizaru did. Because Saturn hits Luffy with a telekinetic attack that does actually, make Luffy bleed and stuff. Again, I'm not invalidating the fact that Kizaru was going through his own shit. I'm just saying, like, we already saw that Saturn, like, commander level characters are not really a problem for Saturn, you know? Saturn is better hockey than Kizaru? Yeah, but hockey's not, like, everything. Like, Zoro has better hockey than Kizaru. That doesn't mean Zoro beats Kizaru. Yamato is better hockey than Kizaru. That doesn't mean Yamato beats Kizaru, you know? Sanji got eye-diffed and everyone forgot thanks to Sanji fans' agenda. I think it's just also just a forgettable moment, you know? Like, part of it is how much does Oda make a big deal out of something, you know? Canal Dushing Wall, thanks a lot. Morge, have you ever thought of writing a story? And if you did, what's going to be your favorite genre to write in? Also, please don't release the Wano video now. Let Wit Piece catch up. You're right. I should let Wit Piece catch up. I have definitely thought about writing a story, but I don't really like sharing. I guess those sort of thoughts with stream or with other people in general. That's something that I want to work towards in my life in general. And I think I just don't like sharing those inner thoughts as much because, like, it just feels more, I don't know, like, I want to create something and actually show it. I don't want to be somebody that, like, talks about, like, I mean, people have different processes, right? So, like, a lot of people get energized by, like, sharing their ideas and saying, like, this is what I'm really excited about and I've a lot of ideas of how I want to do this and that, etc. I think I'm not that that's not me. I think I generally prefer to just work on something or build towards something, and then once I feel like I can actually present it in a format that I feel proud of, then I feel like sharing it. So, like even with this channel, I didn't tell people I was doing a YouTube channel for a long time. It was once it actually, like, once it hit certain milestones that I was like, okay, I've got, like, I didn't, let me think. Out of my I didn't share with, like, even most of my closest friends until I was like, oh, until it was COVID, and I was like, oh, I actually need to start doing YouTube really for paying the bills, because the business that we'd been doing up till then had to stall once COVID started. So, and I was at 30,000 subscribers then. So I still remember, like, that was a point when I started sharing with even, like, my absolute closest friends. Like, my second closest friend, who actually passed away during COVID. I shared with him very shortly before he passed away. He didn't die from COVID. But it was very late. Like, I'd been doing YouTube on the side for a few years, and, like, I'd gotten the channel to over 30,000 subscribers. So, like, that's usually a point where, you don't feel embarrassed, like, telling people, like, hey, this is a thing. But I don't know. I just usually, until it's, like, reached a point where I'm, like, happy with it, I don't like sharing things. Knut Worgen, thanks for the 5. Interesting dichotomy between Emu and Blackbeard is how Emu's super powerful while Blackbeard is relatively weak, but Blackbeard keeps succeeding while Emu keeps falling. I think that's a really good observation, that they're on just two opposite trajectories, right? So, like, Emu's someone who's had everything in his hands, like the world in his control, and it's slowly crumbling bit by bit, or it's at least coming to a boiling point where he essentially needs to wipe out everybody and complete his goal, or people are coming for him and everything he's built is going to come down, right? Blackbeard has been, like, on the come up. Like, his trajectory has been the opposite the whole way through. It's kind of I think about it like this, right? So if there's a mountain, right, then Luffy's whole story is him climbing up the mountain, right? Blackbeard's story is him climbing up the mountain from the other side, right? The thing is, there's already one dude at the top of the mountain, and that's Emu. And that's what makes it so interesting, right? Emu doesn't want anybody else getting to the top of the mountain, right? But he's got the stories of two opposing forces climbing up the mountain, and then what's going to happen to the guy at the top of the mountain? Is Luffy going to knock him off? Is Blackbeard going to knock him off? Is somebody else going to knock him off? All we know is that Luffy's ultimately going to fight someone for the summit, right? That's what makes it so interesting. Is it Emu or is it Blackbeard? Yeah, that's a great observation. Oh, we're talking about Kizaru and shit now? I don't want to debate Kizaru versus Saturn. I mean, I'll just say my opinion is I definitely think Kizaru is stronger than Saturn. I think the catch is just... I think the only catch with Gorsay conversations like that is, like, what about regeneration? Like, if we account for regeneration, then... I mean, if we account for regeneration, then I feel like even Luffy would struggle against Saturn. With the regeneration aspect, I'm like... I feel like you should be allowed to win by like, ring out, like knocking somebody out of the... Because otherwise, what are people really supposed to... Like, most people can't really put down these regenerating characters for... Like, who's done it? Loki? Like, yeah. Like, if it's like, who would be a bigger threat in a fight, Like, if you're picking a team, you'd probably pick Kizaru, right? Green Tornado X says, Kizaru's overall stronger than Saturn, but couldn't beat Saturn in a fight. I mean, it's just like Luffy pieced up Saturn, like, several times over the course of Egghead. I feel like I count that as Luffy winning, even if he didn't, like, permanently knock him out, Rayochia5135, thanks for bringing a Yonko team run for 43 months. Hey, Morge, who would win, Kizaru or Lile Baro? Oh, that's a cool question, cool little crossover question. I think Lille Baro is a lot stronger. Not a lot stronger, sorry. Lille Baro is essentially a much more unfair version of Kizaru. Minus the speed. Oh, he has teleportation. No, but teleportation's not instant. Because the Bleach 1000-Year Blood War, the ability... This is one of the things that I don't understand what Kubo's going to do with the Hell Arc. With the 1000-Year Blood War, the abilities get so absurdly strong. Like, they're... Okay, let me just describe to you a character, and then you think about how this character could be defeated, okay? Let me describe a character, okay? For those of you who don't know Bleach, here's the description of the character's abilities. We're going to assume he's in his Volstendig, okay? So, not base Lille Baro, sure, you can argue that Kizaru would probably win, right? But, you know, let's assume his strongest form, right? This character is intangible. Just straight up, right? So intangible. Basically like Kizaru's intangibility. But there's no elemental counters. He just is intangible. Okay? He is intangible. Also, he can shoot beams that are instantaneous. Okay? It's not even like light beam. Like there's nothing traveling. The beams are instantaneous. He points, shoots, instantaneous. Okay? He can shoot beams that are instantaneous. Anything in the path of his beam is erased. Like, just deleted. It's matter erasure or whatever you want to say. Okay? He's not firing an attack. He's not shooting an explosion. It's not a laser. It's just like point, everything in the beam's range is just deleted, right? He himself is intangible. He erases himself, so he's intangible, no elemental counters, nothing, and he erases everything that he shoots at. Also, he can shoot these beams on like an insane range, like I guess you could compare like size of islands or something like that. Yeah, the visionary, the visionary, the miracle, the antithesis, the balance, like Kubo was going off. Like he essentially picked all of what Kubo did with the final Sternritter's abilities was basically he went through and just, it's like all the abilities that if you're like a little kid, I'm not saying this as an insult, I'm just saying that this is kind of like I think it's cool that he went this route with the abilities, but what he genuinely did was like, it's like if you're a little kid, all the have you guys ever done this when you were kids? Like, we're going to play a game where we pretend we all have powers and stuff like that, but it's like some kid picks like some unfair power for themselves, like my power is to just be a better version of any power, like be a better version of any power that I come up against or something. Or my version is like my power is like anything that I imagine become like I can do anything I imagine or something like that, right? Or my power is like I'm intangible, so nothing can ever touch me, right? Like Kubo essentially went and made all those sort of broken little kid powers real powers. Like, genuinely, there's a character whose ability is that anything that he imagines becomes reality, right? There's a character whose ability is that anything it's something along, what is it? Anything that happens is reversed back on the opponent. There's stuff like that, you know, and then obviously the Lille Baro ability that I explained. Yeah, it's just kind of insane. And the only way that Kubo could write a boss that's ability is stronger than all of these other abilities was to basically make his ability work one step ahead. And I like this concept. So the boss's ability, Yuhabak, you guys probably know, the Almighty, right? It's cool. It's just one step ahead, which is like, okay, whatever everybody else's abilities are don't matter. Because my ability is I can see the future, and anything I see in the future just now doesn't work on me. Or it's negated, or I can change the future so it just doesn't function, whatever your ability is, or like you just die in the future or whatever, right? So it just it works by essentially being like, okay, well, I'm just one up because whatever broken ability you guys have, my ability is just like, well, I can see it ahead, and then if I see it, then it just doesn't work, right? So it's just like it's like a Yu-Gi-Oh card that's like just skill drain. It's essentially skill drain. If you guys know that Yu-Gi-Oh card, it's like, if you flip this card up, then now all other abilities that are used just don't work. Yeah, I think the only thing I really didn't like is that I'm cool with all these crazy strong abilities if Kubo had better ways of resolving how to defeat them. That's all. Sorry, some of these comments are really funny. Yeah, I would sincerely very much recommend. If you've never tried Bleach, or you stopped at some point, I would very much recommend. Um, I tried rewatching the old Bleach anime because Thousand Year Blood War got me back into it. The old Bleach anime, especially once it gets to the R and Car part, it's a rough watch. It is very slow. It's very slow. I would recommend, if you're not interested in like experiencing all of Bleach, try Thousand Year Blood War. Just try it straight up. You can watch a YouTube video that explains the context beforehand. I think Thousand Year Blood War in the anime is fun enough. I think it's self-contained enough that like it's self-contained largely because like there's no plot that leads up to it. There's a vague mention of Quincy's way back earlier, and then the plot just starts, okay? You are missing out on a lot of character stuff, but you can enjoy it without caring about the characters. Largely it's about the fights, the atmosphere, the plot, and stakes of the Thousand Year Blood War itself. I think you can enjoy it as it is. Oh my god. The Almighty is like an always active solemn judgment on instant that doesn't need a life point payment. That's a good point. For those of you who don't know, in Yu-Gi-Oh, back in my day at least, the best trap cards were, oh my god, the solemn cards, because they activate essentially faster than all other effects and negate whatever comes next. Ray HES says, I disagree. I rewatched all of Bleach this year. You know, you can disagree. Like, I think it depends on how. What I'm recommending. You said you rewatched all of Bleach this year, right? So you're already a Bleach fan. I think I'm giving this recommendation to people who are not already big Bleach fans, right? So, it's the same way that, you know, I think I enjoy watching like the anime of One Piece's East Blue more than someone who's brand new to One Piece because I already have attachment to it, right? But this is more like somebody who's just like, I don't want to get into all of Bleach, etc. Yeah. Didn't Morch play Yu-Gi-Oh? When did you stop? I stopped. I think the last big thing that came out before I stopped was Cliports. Cliports were... I played during Cliports time, and then I think that the things that were coming afterwards, I forget what they were. I think what dominated afterwards was Performapal stuff. Or Pepe, or whatever. I wasn't around for that format. So, my golden era of Yu-Gi-Oh! That I really enjoyed playing. So, the first golden era was actually, First golden era, I didn't know what the meta was. Because I played in freshman year of college. It started with, like, somebody on the floor just brought some cards as a... No, actually, I came across somebody on our floor, a friend, who... Well, we became friends after that, who was just playing Yu-Gi-Oh! And I was like, oh, this is funny. This guy's brought his like retro stuff from childhood back. And I played with him. Then I found out that he was actually very into Yu-Gi-Oh! And was spending lots of money on cards. And then he got other friends in our group into Yu-Gi-Oh! But we were, you know, I've shared this story a lot. This is like, it's so stupid to think back on now. But like, we were self-conscious at the time. Like, we were in college. We were wanting to, you know, drink, go out. You know, you're trying to do a lot. Like, you're away from it. You're trying to do a lot in college. That's... you know, and you're making an impression on everybody on the floor and you know, all that, you know, all the stuff, right? So we did, we started by ironically playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Because this one person on the floor, like, sincerely was into Yu-Gi-Oh! So it started as, like, ironic, like, this is kind of fun. Like, sure, if you give us the cards, we'll play a little bit or something like that. But then we kind of got into it a little bit. And then we all bought structure decks, which we did, like, as a secret. We're like, it almost felt like having drugs. It was like, we cannot let anybody on the floor know that, like, we're doing this. And then we got into it. And then, so, freshman year, we just played with our structure decks. structure decks are not meta, so I sincerely didn't know what the meta decks were going around at that point in time. The next year, the same friend who initially got us into YouTube came back, like, loaded up with so many meta decks. He was playing Burning Abyss, but then he also bought Shadal's, stuff like that. So then that forced us to, like, we still wanted to engage in this hobby, so that forced us to all sort of, like, buy some better decks as well. And then that's where the trap happened. So I ended up spending, like, literally hundreds of dollars. It's like you slowly get in, but I spent, like, literally hundreds of dollars on Yu-Gi-Oh cards in sophomore year before dropping it. Hearthstone was ultimately what killed it. We stopped playing Yu-Gi-Oh because we found a better outlet in Hearthstone, which was, you know, at that time, Hearthstone was in its golden age, back when Hearthstone was good. It was sincerely, you could get by free to play and everything like that. And yeah, it just felt a little bit less, it for some reason felt a little bit less nerdy than Yu-Gi-Oh. Anyway. But Yu-Gi-Oh is also a very flawed game, so I would never defend Yu-Gi-Oh. But yeah, I played during basically I guess it was Duelist Alliance, right? So I played during the era that was Burning Abyss, Shadal's, and then the thing that really changed the game was when Necros and Clipboards came along. Burning Abyss, Shadal's, Satellar Knights. I ended up buying Satellar Knights. This is when I stopped enjoying the game. So during the period that it was like Burning Abyss, Shadal's, Necros, and Clipboards, first I was playing spellbooks. So, and I loved that. Spellbooks were not meta at the time because Spellbook of Judgment had been banned some time back, but they were good enough that they could, like, vaguely compete. So that felt really fun, playing spellbooks. Even went to a tournament and made it was a local tournament, but it was cool because then I made it to the little second round top, like, it was a small local tournament, but made it to this second round top 8 of that tournament. And that was fun. And I was with spellbooks, and it was like, cool, like, spellbooks, I was competitive, right? But then as time went on, it just became clear that spellbooks can't keep up because, you know, we were playing online and stuff. And so I caved and I bought the cheapest meta deck I could, which was Satellar Knights. Did not have fun with it, and then at that point I just stopped playing. Anyway, enough about Yu-Gi-Oh. Yeah. Like, Bleach somehow is equivalent power creep for fucking Yu-Gi-Oh. That's the thing, I legitimately don't know where Kubo could go from here. Because the curious thing about, people talk about power creep in anime and manga, right? But Bleach is in a very unique spot where it already concluded. Usually, like, you have a new group of villains, right? And then the heroes get stronger to fight that group of villains, right? And then you need a stronger group of villains to keep going up, right? Bleach concluded in a weird way where Thousand Year Blood War concludes with the heroes not strong enough to fight the villains. Like, genuinely, it concludes with everyone too weak to actually defeat the Stern Ritter. Nobody defeats a Stern Ritter or one of the Schutzstaffel. No one defeats a Schutzstaffel 1v1. The times that characters are, like, all the Schutzstaffel are either defeated by teamwork or Deus Ex Machina, and, like, even the teamwork situations are, like, a hard stretch, you know? Or, like, something really, really lucky, like Pernita versus Mayuri and Nemu being, like, the perfect matchup and stuff like that. But it's clear that there's, like, a huge gap between the Shinigami's powers and the Stern Ritter's powers. And it's hard to even quantify what that gap is because the Stern Ritter's powers are so abstract. Like the Shinigami, their improvements are like, okay, well, what if I get stronger at, like, cutting or, like, better ice attacks or something like that? And their enemies' powers are conceptual. So it's just like, like, their enemies' powers are like, anything my opponent does is reversed back on them, right? Or, I will always evolve to become stronger than what just killed me or something like that, right? Or Lile Baro's ability, which I explained, is already, like, intangible, so nothing can hurt him, and delete anything he attacks. If something does hurt him, he can resurrect. Okay, so that's kind of the problem, right? Even the main villain's ability, Yuha, like, when Ichigo beats Aizen, right, that's a sort of natural progression because Ichigo becomes stronger than Aizen to defeat him, right? Before that, when Ichigo defeated Byakuya, Ichigo gained the power to fight toe-to-toe with and beat Byakuya in straight combat, right? Against Yuhabak and the Sternritter at the end of the story, the characters fail to keep up with the power creep. So Thousand Year Blood War already ends with the protagonists not actually keeping up with the power creep. They basically get bailed out, lucked out. We don't know how Kubo's going to rewrite it, but I don't think it's going to fundamentally change how the fights go to make the Shinigami somehow also get abstract powers that can compete with the villain's powers, right? But that's fine, because that's where the series concludes, right? Like, it's cool to have the series conclude with a sort of like almost like hopeless battle where they can't even compete with the villains, but they like band together and find ways or whatever to do so. But they fundamentally stop keeping up with the power creep already, right? So with the Hell arc, you need to raise the bar even further. I don't know. I feel like Kubo used up pretty much all the unfair, broken conceptual abilities as is. What is he gonna do? And then how do you have Shinigami like keep up with that? Like, what the fuck is Renji gonna do from here on to keep getting power-ups to keep up with even more conceptual and broken and abstract abilities than the Quincy did? And you might say, well, Morge, what if Kubo doesn't make the Hell arc like have stronger villains or whatever? We all know it's gonna, you know? Say enjoy, boy, thanks for the 5. Sup, Morge, great content. Yes, Hell is gonna have way stronger enemies, yeah. KK would have a heart attack writing Bleach. Ender Anami says, they're literal concepts that can only be put down by literal Deus Ex Machina. That shit was absolutely trashed on weekly in the manga. But now the jingly keys and flashing lights anime is being gassed up, lol. So I think that there is an argument for this. I think there is an argument for this, which is like, I agree. Like, in the manga, it was just considered a joke, universally panned when it was coming out. But I think that there is an argument that you can have the same sort of writing and just completely changing like the style of presentation, the tone, the imagery, the atmosphere, the music, etc., the way things are portrayed, such that it feels, it gives it a fundamentally different feel that's enjoyable. You know, I think just pacing out how things go, you know, and Kubo's made some writing edits too, so let's not forget that. So there's some writing edits to make things less bad, and then just, yeah, like changing up a lot of the actual direction, like, because at the end of the day, direction is a big part of like how you experience something, you know, experience the visual medium. So I don't think it's just jingling keys, you know. The Lobby of Culture. Thanks a lot. Usopp will die in Elbaf. The anime already hinted at this for Usopp. What did the anime hint at? Light Tried says, I mean, Naruto was clowned on the same, but now people love the 4th Great Ninja War and think it's the best arc. Do people love this? Love that? Is that true? Is that actually true? I don't know if that's true. Maybe it's true. I've never really seen that. Even among Naruto fans, I don't think I really see people saying that they think that the 4th Great Ninja War is like the pinnacle of the series. Yeah. Okay, we should get into the stream topic. Who are these people? I hope they don't think that. Yeah, we should get into the stream topic. Hold on. Wait, I gotta make the thing. I'll just do this on the side. I feel like I'm enjoying the 1,000 Year Blood War. I'm enjoying the 1,000 Year Blood War. I'm very much looking forward to it coming out. It's just a good action series. It's a good. I'm not saying it's like peak writing or anything like that, but it is a good action series. And I think I like the feel that it's a classic shonen story, or it's a shonen story, but like everything feels really hopeless. And it does, like, the one thing I'll say with the 1,000 Year Blood War is that it does deliver on stakes very well. Stakes, tension, because the heroes don't do well throughout it. You know, they don't do well. I think it's more so the issue becomes like how the conflict is resolved, because like you create such an oppressive scenario that you do still need the heroes to win in a way that's like satisfying. So I'm enjoying like what we've been getting so far. But now we're coming up on the fourth core, which is basically where it's going to be determined, you know, like how what do you call? How does he fix the worst part of the manga, essentially? You know, because that it's generally considered the worst part of the manga. What's a good image to represent the Black Cat Pirates? I guess this. Yeah, this will work. This will work. Hold on one second. Yeah. You know what? The other one that's similar is the Chimera Ant arc, right? But the Chimera Ant arc, obviously, the writing concludes in a much better way than the Thousand Year Blood War does. Bleach Stern Ritter is what folks wanted from the Holy Knights. The Holy Knights are the wrong option for that. Either talk Bleach or we vote on whether Usopp should get killed by Emu. Yes. I don't know what... I don't think Usopp's getting killed by Emu. That'd be crazy. Here, let me do a little poll. Just out of curiosity. Is there any chance Usopp dies this arc? Oh, no. You know what? Will Usopp die this arc? Let's just be straight up. The thing that makes me not believe Usopp's gonna die in the grand scheme of things is also just fucking Kaya. Chimera arc is an actually all-time great arc with a few flaws. I sincerely think my only flaw that I have with the Chimera arc, and it is a somewhat important flaw, but it's like well before the end. The only flaw that I view with it is just the needle. I think the needle is not good. Illumi's needle. I think it turns like a very real and interesting character conflict into like just a logistical issue. Like, oh, I had this needle, and that's why, you know, it'd be like if Usopp turned out to just have a needle in him that made him a coward rather than actually having to, you know, overcome that side of him. Okay, no. Yeah, I don't think Oda has the guts to do it either. If anything, in Elbaf, Oda brought back a character who should never have died. Mihawk the Goat says everybody's first yaoi was Naruto. Genuinely, the Naruto Sasuke dynamic is very, very gay. It's like the only question I have is like if it was intentional by the author or not. Because I think there's no way to spin it other than being like truly, truly gay. You know? Sakura never had a chance. She did well, though. She got what she wanted in the end. Right? She got exactly what she wanted. Yo, Morge, are you watching Witch Hat Atelier? If not, you should consider it. The animation is beautiful. Yeah, we watched 4 episodes. We've liked it. I think we got 3 episodes stacked up, so we'll catch up again soon. I'm still in the middle of The Sopranos. Still in the middle of The Sopranos, no, not in the middle. I'm getting towards the end, which makes me sad. I'm getting towards the end. Nearly out of... Fuck, just finished season 5, actually. Literally just finished season 5. I'm going to be very sad when it's over. So, yeah, we were talking about this, which is just that shows from the 2000s have a much more laid-back feel because like now if I watch a show like Severance, every single episode is geared towards getting me to watch the next episode. Like it's all cliffhangers and like crazy long running plot points and stuff. And I like Severance a lot. Sopranos has, a long running story. It has a long running storyline, but it's and plot points develop, but like it's also much more okay with just having scenes that are for the sake of this, like for the sake of just the characters, like, or just showing like, okay, AJ not doing well in school or some shit, or like just showing, and it doesn't have to lead to anything big, or just showing like them fucking arguing about Christopher Columbus, even though I didn't like that episode, but like, it doesn't have to lead to anything big. Like not everything needs to be. You can kind of just sit and enjoy the characters interacting, the day-to-day minutia of what they go through, and some of it leads to something big, but lots of times it doesn't, and that's okay. Severance is on pause, but we will catch up soon. I think we just started season 2. Anders says, Morge, those who cannot conceive friendship as a substantive love, but only as a disguise or elaboration of eros, betray the fact that they never had a friend. That's from C.S. Lewis. I definitely think that, like, platonic love is, like, that's very important as well. But I think the simplest thing I can say is that, like, it's the obsession. That's different. And Naruto is definitely very, very obsessive over Sasuke in a way that's not normal. In a way that I think wouldn't be normal even if it was like... It's just not... It's not normal. It's not normal. It goes... Especially because they weren't really friends. That's the other thing. Like, if they'd really been like... Sure, the quote that you posted is well, good, and true. They weren't even friends, though. That's the other thing. Like, Naruto was just fixated on Sasuke for a long, long time after Sasuke had left. They didn't hang out. They didn't even, like... It seemed like they didn't like each other, That's why it feels like it's more than just, intentional or not by Kishimoto. It feels like for the story to make sense, you kind of have to, accept that Naruto has feelings for this dude, Tom says, more just because we never see Naruto and Sasuke interact as friends in the beginning. Sasuke treats him like shit. They bond slightly during the first mission, and then the Chunin exams happen. The thing is that, the thing that we can't gloss over is that you bond a lot in life and death situations. That's at least from what I know. It's a lot of why people who are in the same military squad, platoon, whatever, tend to a unit, whatever the fuck, they become really, really close, especially if they end up in life and death situations. It's just, it has an extreme way of bonding you very fast. It's also why I think that the Straw Hats, like, it's believable that they bond so fast because they're put in these life and death situations where it's just like they have to have each other's backs. That's also why we know that, even though Zoro and Sanji talk shit to each other all the time, we know at the end of the day, like, ever since they fought back-to-back, even all the way back at Arlong Park, you feel underneath that there is a deep camaraderie there, So I give that a pass, but then it's the obsessiveness after, like, in terms of, like, caring about the other person, like, Naruto and Sasuke having a bond after that initial, after that initial Land of Waves arc or whatever. I think that it doesn't make sense why it became so obsessive after that. Like, it's one thing to be like, okay, now we're close, to now being like, I think about this dude all the time, Two different things in my opinion. Yeah, but maybe that's just me. Henchme987 says suspension bridge effect. That's why they think they're in love with each other. That's a good point. For those of you, I think this is a popular little study or whatever, but for those of you who don't know, the suspension bridge effect is basically people in when you have a couple that meets just on a swinging bridge, right? Like, man and woman have to meet on a swinging bridge, then they tend to fall for each other. They tend to feel something deeper because they're kind of mistaking the whatever the elevated sort of like the elevated feeling of like danger or whatever, even if it's just a swinging bridge, but the elevated, I guess, heart rate arousal or whatever from being in that situation with connecting that to the stranger, and that's a really interesting idea. Man, there's not a good image for Skypiea priests. What the fuck? Man, all right, whatever. We'll do the best we can. We'll do the best. Wait, no, there's got to be a good image. NL and priests. NL and priests. There's kind of a. Nah, I guess this works. It's okay. This is. We'll just have to credit this to a fan artist, basically. You guys will see what I'm talking about. Trauma bonding? Yeah, that's not exactly the case. Man, it's funny. Little Sakura and Sasuke feels like a compelling relationship dynamic. I don't know if. I don't think Naruto. I guess people look for different things in romance. I don't think I ever really liked any of the Naruto romances that we got. I don't like Naruto and Hinata. Hinata's just too bland of a character to me. Like it, I don't like the Naruto Hinata thing. It feels like she was just a fangirl for. It's interesting actually. I wonder what this says about Kishimoto, that he had basically Naruto get with the girl who fangirled over him from the beginning, and Sasuke get with the girl who fangirled over him since the beginning. I wonder what that says. Does that say anything? I wonder if that says anything. Is that just what Kishimoto thinks love looks like? If the girl's obsessed with you from the get-go? I don't know about that. Yeah, I don't know about that. Nothing, I don't know. I'm not saying One Piece does great romance or anything like that, but yeah, I think Naruto's not the best for that. Let me think. What out of the shonen series that I've read, which romance, like, because shonen's obviously not really like perfectly tailored for romance, right? So out of the big three, I think low-key, I like Ruki and Renji's romance fine. Low-key. Like, I don't love it, but as far as shonen series go, I think it's not bad. Okay, I'll be right back. I really gotta pee. All right. Sorry about that. When I go to the gym, I drink a lot of water. So it's just I should probably go to the gym after stream in the future. Renji and Rukia. I mean, I think it's not the worst. Ichigo was an aromantic poser until after the story. Yeah. Great. Oh, Fairy Tail. Let me think. Fairy Tail. I don't like Gray and Juvia. I think there's one that I do like. I think Natsu and Lucy's like fine. Like it just feels like they have friend energy that became romantic. Like I can't imagine Natsu actually being romantic. What about Erza and Gelato? No, I don't think. What's weird is Fairy Tail had so many ships, but I personally don't like any of those ships. Let me think. What else? Hunter x Hunter obviously has a great one in, you know, I don't want to spoil, but in the Camarant, that's like an all-time great. Fuck. Yeah, are there... What's what's do I need to pull up my anime list? Maybe I need to pull up my anime list. I'm struggling right now to think of good good. I guess shonen just don't have the. I guess it's just a natural part of shonen storytelling that romance isn't really going to be that great. I think I like, this is random, in Beelzebub, I think I liked the main character's, his romantic, it was Oga and some other girl who was good with swords. But I forget exactly how that went. I remember I did like it though. I thought that was always funny. What about Kenichi and Miyu from History's Strongest Disciple? Nah. What about something going on right now? Chainsaw Man. Oh, Chainsaw Man. Oh, fuck. Except for the way that it turned out. But Chainsaw Man's really good at writing. I think part of it is that Chainsaw Man's really good at writing compelling female characters. Or at least really interesting female characters. And then Denji's hilarious, so you can kind of pair it in lots of ways. Denji and Asa, I think, it had phenomenal potential. I was riding with that for a long time. Undead Unluck. I like the... Yeah, you know what? Undead Unluck. I think, what is it? Andy and what's the main character's name? I don't remember the main character's name. Fuck. I like that one. Oh, and Victor and... what's her name? Ruiz or Juiz or whatever. New X7. Thanks for the 10. I talked about this on Reddit today. Kishimoto initially planned... Naruto Hinata Sasuke Sakura, but halfway changed to Naruto Sakura, then changed back because he thought Sakura moving on from Sasuke would make her a bad woman. Damn. That follows with Kishimoto's writing. Makes sense. Makes sense. Yeah, Chainsaw Man Pain. Yeah. Fuko, Andy and Fuko, yeah. And the blonde guy and the two sisters. I don't remember the blonde guy from the blonde guy from Undead Unluck? Goku and Chi-Chi greater than Naruto Hinata. Vegeta and Bulma, that's one I like. Goku Chi-Chi I don't care for. It just feels random. Vegeta and Bulma, I think that there's just the personalities clashing is so perfect there. You know what? I think maybe a little bit of it is that, like, when you have those really happy-go-lucky type main characters, right? Or not even happy-go-lucky, the type of main characters that don't really, I feel like, have like a brain in a sense, like a Goku, a Natsu, I guess arguably a Luffy. I think I can't get invested in the romance for them as much because it just doesn't feel like it just feels like they don't even understand the concept of romance really. So it's like, it's just pairing characters for the sake of pairing characters. Whereas like Vegeta and Bulma, it's cool to see especially as the anime progresses and they reach their later years. I think Vegeta and Bulma is so much fun to. It's always fun to watch their dynamic because the way that Bulma curbs Vegeta is just fucking hilarious, no matter how you spin it every time. Yeah, and it's a great way to keep Bulma. I don't want to say relevant, but it does help her relevance because like the story initially was Goku and Bulma, right? But then as it becomes more and more action oriented, it becomes less Bulma, you know. But she's still useful for technology stuff. But also making her Vegeta's wife just keeps her really like keeps her in the plot. You know, it's good. I think you could say, as far as shonen stuff goes. Like I think that's one where it's always fun to watch on screen. I think that's the thing that makes it fun for me. It's always fun to watch Vegeta and Bulma on screen. It's always either like peak comedy or funny, or sorry, not either peak comedy or it's sweet. So I like that. I'm looking for an image for the new Fishman Pirates, and like they're so unpopular that there's not even like a good group image for them. Let me look up One Piece Horde Crew. Hody Crew. Did I just imagine that the crew was at one point called like it's Hody Jones, but I swear it used to be called Horde. Am I crazy? Is there anybody who was reading the maybe it was the translations I was reading back then? I don't know. I don't know. What else? Beyond Dragon Ball, Bleach, One Piece. Let me think. Demon Slayer. I don't think Demon Slayer is anything. My Hero. I don't care about Deku's thing. Jujutsu Kaisen. Jujutsu Kaisen. I guess Yuta Maki are in that, like, I don't know. It's not delved into a lot, but it's like, I could see this being, you know, a thing. Is there any other romances that matter in Jujutsu Kaisen, or is that mainly the main one? Yusuke and Keiko, that's a good one. I think that's actually kind of good. Maybe Tagashi's low-key a little bit good at romances. Dandadan has great, yeah. Dandadan's so obvious. I can't believe I forgot about Dandadan. His wife is the author of Sailor Moon, Man Has Wisdom. Oh, his life is a love story. That's nice too. That's really cool. I forgot about that. I did know that his wife was the author of Sailor Moon. That is really cool. I literally can't find an image for the Horde Pirates that's any good. Here's a really rough one. I guess we'll use this. Yeah, Dandadan, love the dynamic between the main characters. Good stuff. Yeah, nothing but props to Dandadan for that. Dandadan, Chainsaw Man. Kagurabachi doesn't really have a romance. You can kind of already tell what the romance Kagurabachi's going to go for. I don't feel too strongly about it either way. Attack on Titan. I didn't get all the way through Attack on Titan, so I can't really speak on I assume Eren, Mikasa, or however things go. Don Quixote family. Don Quixote family is pretty cool. Pretty cool. We're almost there, guys. Don Quixote family. I want an image with Doflamingo in there. Yeah, I guess this works. Don Quixote's family. The one flaw of Don Quixote's family is like it's so tragic that stops them from being a great group of villains. They're too weak for that point in the story. Just 2 weeks for that point in the story. Like, it feels like Oda put a lot of time into creating, like, a really cool, big villain group. And then just doesn't... Like, they're kind of, like, scrubs compared to the Straughts at that point. Because, Zoro zero diff... Not zero... I mean... You know what, Virgo. If in an alternate reality where it was like Zoro versus Virgo, then Sanji versus Pika, and then the other Strats had to deal with the other seats and stuff, then maybe that's not the case. But I think I'm just saying like the way that that everything played out, the way everything played out, it just felt like they were a joke for the Strats to fight, except for Luffy versus Doflamingo. That's pretty much it. But beyond that, it just felt like, what are we even? We waited God knows how many chapters, like from chapter, 400 something, like since Ryuma, we were waiting like 300 chapters for Zoro to get a fight in his first, for a real fight, and then it turns out Pika can't even give him a real fight. It's just an excuse for Zoro to use him as a giant, cutting board, right? Sanji doesn't even get to fight anybody. Half the Strats don't even get to fight anybody. Robin, who's on the island, doesn't get to fight anybody. It's just she's just around for support if needed. Frankie basically throws his fight out of honor, and Usopp snipes Sugar from far away with a whatever. Yeah, I don't know. Okay, I'm almost done with the tier list. It'll be a simple tier list, but my question is, with the Celestial Dragons, how do I showcase all of them? Because okay. So this actually leads me back to the start of the stream. Okay, here. This leads me back to the start of the stream. So I think I've got most villain groups chalked out here. All right, I've got most villain groups chalked out. But as you can see, so I talked about Yonko, commanders, officers, etc. Right. For comparing villain groups, do we keep the Tobi Roppo and the Gorsay separate, or are we just calling it one big group and call it the Celestial Dragons? Because technically it should be the Celestial Dragons as a villain group. Like Emu, the Gorsay, and the God's Knights, right? They're all one thing, right? Sorry if I was calling the God's Knights the Tobi Roppo. You guys know what I mean, right? Emu, the Gorsay, and the God's Knights are all one thing, right? So do we evaluate them as one thing? I think when you piece them apart, then it's like people will be like, oh, the Holy Knights, they kind of suck, right? But shouldn't we really do this together? I feel like that makes sense, right? I'll do a little poll for you guys. Snap! Thanks for being a Yonko tier member for 44 months, man. Hey, Morge, you need to soon do a 4-year badge. Time goes by so fast. Over 3 years of asking you to read Kingdom. Haha, sorry, I will not stop. I do need to read Kingdom soon. Again, I'm trying to tell you, I can only do one thing at a time. So maybe once I'm done with the Sopranos, I'll read Kingdom. I need one thing to take up my space at a time. I'm on the final season, right? Hold on, how many episodes? Because I've heard Sopranos' final season is longer than usual. How many episodes, season 6, Sopranos? 21 episodes, so it's longer than usual. So essentially a season and a half. JWP, thanks for gifting 5 memberships, man. Thanks so much. Everybody in chat, say thanks to JWP as usual. For coming through with the memberships. Thanks so much, man. We appreciate it. Yeah, we appreciate it. Yeah, thanks for coming through. Yeah, man, just as usual. Just shouts in the chat to JWP. Let's see some shouts in the chat for JWP. Thoughts on Jackie Aprile? Oh, man. Jackie Aprile, I was like... Okay, so how to explain this? So I told you guys I've seen lots of bits of the Sopranos in clips before ever actually watching the show, right? Because I just ended up on a YouTube rabbit hole where it would recommend me lots of clips. And so, at some point I watched a shit ton of Sopranos clips. So a lot of little things have been spoiled on for me, right? Now, there was a period where I did see clips of this dude, Jackie Aprile. So I knew what happened to him. And in my mind, heading into the show, I was interested in seeing more about the character because from my thought process, I was like, oh, this guy was probably the guy that was the heir to, you know, yeah, the heir to his father, right? And I was like, this guy was probably like this is gonna be a really interesting storyline about like the rising star in the mafia or whatever. Because from the clips, you don't get a full perspective on like how much of a fraud he is and how dumb he is, right? Because it's just clips. So I was like, I knew he died. Okay, so from my perspective, it was like I'm really interested to see this like the rising star kid or whatever, right? And then see how things go down for him. And then as you see more of Jackie Aprile, I'm just like, this is frankly disappointing, right? I obviously the angle that it all went was good for the story and everything, but just the image I had of the character beforehand from the clips that I'd seen did not line up. So that was funny. Richie Aprile was a more fun character. He didn't last long. I think Richie Aprile. Sopranos came out so long ago, so this is a really minor spoiler, and you can kind of guess that this character is going to die early on. But Richie Aprile's death was interesting because it kind of established the type of show The Sopranos was going to be for me, which is like, I think a lot of people go into The Sopranos, again, like myself, thinking like that it is going to be like, it's all about like, it's a very intricate plot where there's big moments and like mafia mob masterminds planning and plotting against one another and chess moves and things like that happening and hits and stuff like that being ordered and everything's sharp and calculated, right? And you expect things to lead to big plot resolutions, right? Like in something like The Godfather or something like that. Like big hits, big moves, stuff like that. Sopranos is a much more down-to-earth show. So like for context, in season 2, there's like, I guess you could say an antagonist figure that's introduced who keeps rubbing against the main character of the show, the protagonist, Tony. Not a good guy either, but you know, he keeps butting heads with him, and it feels like it's mounting and mounting to like some sort of big finale, and it's like Richie's gonna make some sort of a move against Tony. We know Richie's gonna make some sort of a move against Tony. It's in the works. And then finally comes to a point where like Richie tries to make the move to get people on his side, and like he has one meeting, the guy's just like, I'm not interested. And then after that, it kind of is just like, okay, it's not gonna take the next step. Richie's not gonna be able to mount a sort of coup. And then the next thing that happens is Richie's wife, funnily enough Tony's sister, just shoots him to death over dinner. Like, the whole thing seems like it's going to lead to, like, a big mafia showdown, right? Where there's going to be some assassination attempt, some stuff like that, right? And then his wife just kills him over dinner. And then that's it. And it's just like, damn. But the season ends with, like, a even more interesting, like, there's a different thing that happens to conclude the season that is very interesting, but it's not, you know, it doesn't feel, in lots of points, it doesn't feel like it's Hollywood. It just feels like, oh, that's something that could happen. And it's interesting, you know? Sleep Hut, thanks to the 5. Hey, Morge, thoughts on Mad Men's final season and ending? Mad Men's final season, I'm comparing I'm comparing Mad Men to The Sopranos in my head a lot right now because very, very similar styles. Very similar styles of storytelling. Similar main characters, in a sense, just operating in different worlds. I think at this point, I'd say I enjoy The Sopranos more. But I still obviously really like Mad Men quite a bit. Mad Men final season and ending, I don't remember lots of the final season that well. I think it had a good ending. I think Mad Men ended well. I do think it ended well. I haven't seen The Sopranos ending yet, but I've heard it's controversial. I think my thing with Mad Men's ending is that I feel like things started to move around a little bit too easily towards the end. It was like, I think some plot, it felt like things began to move around. So like, there's the big merger. So then the merger happens, and then things are spiraling, and then it's like, okay, you guys are going to this office over in West Coast, and then we're at East Coast. Then it's like, okay, the West Coast, East Coast actually doesn't matter. We're back. Everything's back. And then it's like, we're going to sell it. We're not going to sell it. Like, we want to be bought. We don't want to be bought. It felt like it got jerked around a little bit, such that things that characters seemed like they had a hard stance against before, then like, oh, we'll put it to a vote. And it's like, no, now we don't have a hard stance. I know I'm speaking vaguely, but I'd have to go back through all of the episodes exactly. But I felt like, how do I explain this? I felt like character-wise, things played out well. I feel like the plot got a little bit jerky just to get things moved or to create points of tension or to resolve points of tension easier. Whereas I feel like earlier in the story, I feel like everything kind of... there wasn't as much movement in terms of like, okay, now this is happening with the business. No, this is happening with the business. No, now the whole business is being sold and now we're being absorbed. No, now we're not being absorbed. Like, I feel like in the earlier seasons, that was all a little bit more carefully measured out so that it had a bigger impact when those things sort of happened. That's not to say I don't like the ending of Mad Men. I still enjoyed Mad Men all the way through the end. And I think the character writing and everything was still very good. I think it's just like things started to jump a little bit more than before. What are your thoughts on Ralphie? Best character in my opinion. And then Saint Baller says, I love Ralphie, he's the devil. I saw like a post on Reddit breaking down how Ralphie is like literally the devil, and like some of the lines he says line up with like lines that the devil would say in a certain, or like references to the devil in a song or whatever. Ralphie, great character. My favorite character is probably... I fucking hate Tony now. Like, genuinely. Like, I started to think about it, which is just... Tony in the first season is genuinely, like... It feels like the only... Like, he does... The way I would describe him towards the beginning was, like... Tony does bad things, but, like, that's just because he's in the mob life, you know? And from my perspective, like, so many other guys in the mob did way worse things than Tony. Tony only did things that, like, he kind of had to do or felt like he had to do at points, right? And it felt like the only bad thing that he really, truly, consistently did that wasn't just business was, like, cheat on his wife. But beyond that, it felt like Tony was actually genuinely a very likable character. I don't know what, but, like, slowly... I think last season I started to strongly dislike Tony. Maybe since season 4. I don't know what season I really started to, like, slowly dislike Tony. Not in the sense that... How do I explain this? There's characters that are villains, and you're supposed to know that they're villains, but they're fascinating to watch and fun to watch, right? And so, like, you know that they're bad, you understand that they're bad, you don't condone what they do, but you still, like, in a sort of warped way, enjoy the character and like the character, right? And maybe you even root for them to succeed what they do. It's fake, it's fantasy, it's whatever, right? Then there's characters where, like, it's like... I just hate every little thing this person does. You know, like Joffrey? Like, Joffrey's a character nobody rooted for. Because every little thing that he did, every little conversation, every little petty little act, every little cruel act or whatever, it just made you hate him. He wasn't fun to... It wasn't like, oh, there's a bad guy, but it's like a fun to watch bad guy that, like, I kind of enjoy watching for some reason, right? I did enjoy watching Joffrey or whatever, but, like, you strongly disliked him, right? Like, I know he's bad, but I like him in a fun way is, like, one thing, right? And then someone like Joffrey is just like, I hate this dude. I hate him every time he's on screen. I hate every little thing he does, right? Tony shifted from the first thing, which is more like, you know, I know he's bad. He's in the mafia. He has people killed, does stuff like that. He engages in illegal activities, but... Scene to scene, he's fun, and I can see where he's coming from, and I can see, like, the bad environment that shaped him like this, and his mom, and all of that stuff, and, like, I can empathize with him, and his panic attacks, and, like, the things, his more vulnerable side that he's trying to hide, right? That's how I felt about Tony Season 1, probably some of Season 2, etc. Now we're at a point where every single fucking conversation that Tony has with anybody... I'm just like, why is he such an asshole? Like, he's an asshole in every single conversation. Out of 10 conversations Tony might have in an episode, it feels like I just want to strangle him or somebody to strangle him in like 9 out of 10 of them. And then maybe 1 out of 10, it's like, okay, he wasn't the biggest dick in that. It's so much petty little shit. It's crazy. Like Christopher walks in upset because there's rumors going around that Tony was fucking his wife or his fiance or whatever, right? And Tony was trying to fuck her. Whether he would have gone all the way or not, we don't know, right? The first thing he asks Christopher to do is throw away this thing he was using to wipe shit off of his shoe, right? It's just a petty, mean thing to do where, like, he could be apologetic to Christopher and be like, listen, it's not what you think, let's calm down, blah, blah, blah. He could try and be like a human with him, right? Not a mean boss, but instead he's just like, no, the first thing I need to do is put this guy in his place and just know that I'm the boss and I can make him do whatever, right? Like, it's small shit like that that just makes you really hate the guy. Very narcissistic, very hypocritical. Tony, I no longer like as a character. I enjoy watching him still, but in like, it's almost a hate watch sort of way. But I still like him to some degree. Christopher, he's gone south for me too. Johnny Sack, that's the character I love. I like Johnny Sack quite a bit. Ralphie was so much... Yeah, Ralphie is an example of like a character that's really, really fun to watch for sure. Tony, it gets a little too real in the sense that like the way he manipulates conversations, or he's like he deflects and all of that stuff. Even with his wife, I don't even like Carmela, but the way Tony talks to his wife, it's just like, this is just like so manipulative and so like hypocritical, it's fucked up. Anyway. GDYY7 says, yeah, his character declines, which is intentional. Yeah, but it declines in a manner that like makes me stop liking him as my favorite character. So for example, Walter White, his character also declines over the course of the series. But he's still my favorite character at the end of the day, right? I'm not saying this is bad writing. This is obviously very intentional. Like, the difference, I guess, is that Tony's starting point is where Walter kind of ends up. So Walter ends up in that point where it's like, yeah, you're just a bad dude, but you're still human, right? So I can enjoy you as a character, even though I know that you're just a bad dude, right? Who is a bad guy at the end of the day, right? Tony goes from there. Like, Tony's starting point is essentially similar to Walter's ending point, right? And Tony can only decline from there. So he declines further and further into, like, I use Joffrey as the example because, like, that's a character people know, but this almost, like, psychotically evil, not psychotically, like, just this, like, pathetically evil person who's just, like, evil in the most minor ways. You know what? I think that's a thing. Like, I think in terms of, like, TV, fiction, etc., we can excuse characters being bad in a sort of grand or, like, not relatable way. Like, Tony killed a guy, you know? But it's mafia business or whatever. You know, Walt had this person killed, but it's, like, drug dealing business or whatever, right? Walter deals drugs. We know that has bad consequences, etc. But it's all, like, vague. It's not, like, relatable. I think it's when you see characters acting in ways that feel very, very real, like we've all experienced before, like being in front of or around a person like that who's just, like, just mean, petty, cruel, a bully, narcissistic, manipulative, a liar, hypocritical, like in every single conversation, right? Like in every single moment, just trying to make everybody else's lives worse. I think that's when they become really hateable. Does that make sense? I think it's the same reason like why Tywin was a terrible character, like terrible person, and Joffrey was a terrible person. But, like, I genuinely hated Joffrey, whereas, like, I loved Tywin, even though I knew that Tywin sucks, just like Joffrey sucks, you know? Anyway, long tangent on The Sopranos, but sorry about that. He becomes his mother, basically, says GDYY7. Yeah. Hytergby, thanks for the 10. Completely off topic, but what if what makes Elbaf and everything there giant comes from B-Blue's Akuma no Mi, Devil Fruit? Something could be connect him to Emu, and B-Blue might be the one making the army giant. The thing is that I feel like the Elbaf giants, I did think at one point, what if B-Blue is making everyone bigger or something like that, but I do think the giants are genuinely giants, because I think that's how the Nidhogg fruit, that's the only way the Nidhogg fruit can really work like that, you know? Dr. Robbie got a bit like that in season 2 of The Pit. Pitt, also a great show. Dr. Robbie did start getting really frustrating in season 2. I saw some discussion about season 2 of The Pit that it became too Dr. Robbie centric, and I kind of agree. But I liked season 2 better than season 1. Yeah. Hold on. Should Gorsay / Holy Knights and Holy Knights be different groups? No, all Celestial. All right. Hold on. There's a word count limit. Okay, hold on. Yeah. All right. NewX722 says, do you think Dragon, Luffy, Garp, or any of the One Piece characters could lift MCU Mjolnir? I would need more details about who can lift Mjolnir in the MCU. From my understanding, it's pretty much fucking everybody, right? Can't, like, Thor's girlfriend just randomly lift Mjolnir? Right? Wouldn't that suggest that there's probably, like, lots of people out there that can lift Mjolnir? Sleep Hut, thanks for the 5. How is season 2 of The Pit better than 1 for you? Season 1 is perfect television to me. Season 1 I didn't watch as carefully, because it was just on in the background. So, because my partner, she was watching it. So, for me, it was like, I tuned in partway through without really knowing the characters, and then I'm watching and kind of picking up bit by bit as it went. Season 2, I came in with the familiarity with the characters and everything. Yeah, I just had the familiar... Like, put it this way, I don't remember much of what happens in Season 1 outside of the Langdon drug thing and the... the Langdon drug thing and the Dr. Robbie breakdown scene and the shooting, right? So, like, a lot of that stuff. But Season 2, I actually remember more kind of the moments, the characters, etc. Because that was the one I watched more carefully. Okay, so people are saying Gorsay and Holy Knights should be different groups, but why? Because I'm going to count the Marines as all one group, right? Yeah, no way you want Holy Knights and Gorsay as different groups. That makes no sense. I agree it makes no sense. Yeah, I'm not trying to argue that Season 2 is better or worse than Season 1. I'm just telling you my experience. I'm not, like, critically judging or evaluating it here. Yeah, what's the... I get it. Okay, how do I explain? I get where you guys are coming from, because it does feel like the Gorsay and the Holy Knights should be different groups, because in my head they just are different groups. But then, by that logic, right, then the Calamities and the Toby Ropo should be their own groups, you know? And the Admirals and Vice Admirals should be their own groups. Sorry, people are voting yes. I'm saying people are voting yes for different groups, right? Yeah, I think it's a... So Gio's pointing out... The Gio points out, I'd say the Gorsay's presence extends too far back to lump with the Holy Knights. I think it's a feelings thing, and that it feels like they just are different entities. But they're really the same, right? They're essentially basically Emu's military force, right? If they just had the same name, right? Kind of like yeah, if they just had the same name, like it's like like you could say the generals are the Gorsay and then the Tobiropo. Yeah, I guess it's a community thing. The community treats them differently. That's a shame because I feel like if you lump them together, then they're easily the best villain group in One Piece, right? Like, because then it's Emu, the Gorsay, and the Holy Knights, right? All together, that's like a really cool villain group, right? But with them separate, it's not. It feels like the Gorsay are just, I don't know. To be fair, the Gods Knights has its own leader. Yeah, but that leader is subservient to the Gorsay, right? We kind of already saw this chain of command back during the God Valley, like the Rocks flashback, right? Back then, like Garling kind of reports up to the Gorsay, Gorsay report to Emu, so that's just chain of command, you know? The Gorsay and Holy Knights are treated as different organizations. Are they though? Because it's literally promotions, right? The Gorsay are former Holy Knights. It's just like literally, we already saw this. Supreme Commander of the Gods Knights, at some point or another, gets promoted to the Gorsay. And the Holy Knights report to the Gorsay, right? So there's not, I don't think there's a logical distinction here. I I don't know. I'd say they have different goals. While with the Pirates, they're all in it for the captain's goal. They don't have different goals. They all have the same goal. It's Emu's goal, right? So, like, logically, if we treated this the normal way, then it's Emu, the Gorsay, and the Holy Knights are all one group, which is the Celestial Dragons, right? Emu's the captain, right? The Gorsay are Calamities, and then God's Knights are Tobiropo, right? It's all the same function. Or if you want to give a comparison to the Marines, Emu's like the Fleet Admiral or Commander-in-Chief, and then Gorsay are the next thing down, Admirals, whatever you want to call it, Vice Admirals, and then Tobiropo are a different thing, right? Is Emu then the leader of the Gorsay or the Holy Knights? They're all one. It's the Celestial Dragon faction, right? One faction, Celestial Dragon faction. Emu's the top, then you got Gorsay, then you got God's Knights, then if you want to count them, you got the normal Celestial Dragons. I think it's tricky because if you count them all as one, like the Celestial Dragon faction as a whole is really cool because then it's like Emu is obviously, really cool villain, and then the Gorsay as his like top group of henchmen are a cool primary group of henchmen, right? And then the God's Knights are cool lower officers, right? But if you break them up, then it's like the Gorsay on their own are not the coolest, and the God's Knights on their own are not the coolest, so it's like a little hard. Yeah, it's the same, like, Doflamingo family is structured exactly the same way, right? Because it's like Doflamingo at the top, then he's got his seats, and then underneath that seats you've got the officers, right? Okay, we'll do it separately for the sake of this, but because I'm arguing head versus heart on this, because in my head, there's no logical reason to group them separately, but feelings wise, my first instinct is the Gorsay are their own group, and the Holy Knights are their own group. So it's not logical. I think it's just the way they've been presented over the course of the story that makes a difference here. All right. Yeah, it's not a logic thing. It's just, yeah, the Gorsay have been around for so long. It just feels different. They feel like they're their own thing when they're really not. We could call it Emu's Chosen 13 or something like that. You know? Because there's 13 characters with the um, 13 characters with the pact, Like, think of it like this. It's basically it's just in like Gorsay are just elevated God's Knights, right? Because God's Knights have the Deep Sea Pact, and then the Gorsay have the Deep Sea Pact or whatever. But we can keep them separate. We can keep them separate. Because, yeah, I guess functionally in the story they're different, right? Because, like, with CP9, we're not just throwing them in the broad category of, like, the world government, I guess. So, I think it's fair. I think it makes sense. Sorry, I'm having to, like, mentally justify this to myself. Because I still feel like it doesn't quite seem right, but, you know. I think if the Celestial Dragons, if we group them all together, then it is just the best villain group in One Piece, right? Because, like, Emu is a great boss, and then, you know, the Gorsay are clearly better than, like, other commander-type villains, like, you know, King, Queen, and Jack, compared to the Gorsay. Like, the Gorsay are a lot cooler than... I mean, King's pretty cool, but then, like, Queen and Jack, compared to, you know, Venus Juro and Garling and Warcure, like, it's not exactly the same. Hold on. Hold on a second. All right. What the fuck? Oh my god. All right. What the fuck? Sorry, this is going a little slow. Oh my god. Okay. Alright, whatever. Good enough. Alright. Let's do a quick little tier list to round out this stream. Let's do a quick little tier list. Also, let's get the stream likes up to 100 real quick. Or 75. Let's do 75. Entire Naruto named verse versus entire One Piece named verse. This is just how cool we think the villain groups are. How cool. So, for example, we're going to put Horty's group right at D. Right? Terrible group. Terrible, terrible group. I think the Buggy Pirates were a pretty solid opening group. I think for their time, we don't count Buggy's Pirate Fleet now. Buggy's Pirate Fleet now, it's essentially turned into Cross Guild. That's its own whole thing, right? So that's too much. Cross Guild would be its own category, and I'm not putting them in villains groups just yet. We're talking about Orangetown Buggy. Orangetown Buggy, I think it had the most. It's about the same as the Kuro Pirates, right? I'd put it in B. I'd say it was okay, right? Because, like, for its time, Kabaji was actually a decent opponent for Zoro. Moji was, like, a nice little mini-boss, and Richie. And then Kuro, I think, goes here. Like, Black Cat Pirates, basically the same thing. I think the Dawn Creek Pirates were not good because it was essentially just Dawn. No, it's essentially it's all the same thing, right? Dawn Creek, Jin, and Pearl. Maybe these guys should be in C. Maybe these guys should be here, because Dawn Creek Pirates, Jin was actually really cool, right? So maybe I'm being wrong here. I guess it's just the Dawn Creek Pirates didn't really give us the fights that these others did, because it was really just Luffy versus Krieg. Then the Pearl fight got interrupted. And Sanji versus Jin was like a friendship match. But the group as a whole was pretty cool. I'd put Orangetown Buggy in C tier, C for Clown. Yeah. Baroque works. Okay, let's go a little bit in order. I think the Orlong Pirates are a solid B tier enemy group, right? It's the first group they gave pretty much everyone in the crew fights. Plus they had Momu. And like even the The foot soldiers were fishmen, so it was kind of like a step up, and Arlong was like the big boss Feast Blue. I think this is good. I think this is good. CP9, no. Let's do Baroque Works next. Baroque Works, I think, was just an S tier villain organization. Yeah, Baroque Works were great. Yeah, Baroque Works is great. Baroque Works is no question. And it's just like the long build up to them. I feel like Baroque Works were I think just in terms of number of arcs, they're the group that we fought for the most arcs, right? Like Reverse Mountain, Whiskey Peak, Little Garden, Skip Drum Kingdom, and then Alabasta. It was just, yeah, and it was cool, and it was the first time that like the crew really got pushed. I think Baroque is S. I think Baroque is S. Come on. Okay. Oh wait, you know what? We've got some other stuff here though. I'll put Baroque Works A because we do have some other stuff here that's maybe going to make it more competitive. CP9 is Okay, you know what the big problem is here? We have the Marines, and the Marines are unfair because I want to take the Marines off. The Marines are unfair because the Marines are essentially like the Marines are one of the coolest like One Piece's Marines are one of the coolest organizations in fiction. Like I guess that's an SS, right? It's hard to compare to the Marines. It's so many characters, not just so many characters, right? So many of One Piece's best written characters are in the Marines because the Marines inherently lend themselves to the most morally nuanced characters, right? Like if you're on the pirate side, you're pirates, right? There's good guy pirates, bad guy pirates, or whatever, but like pirates are essentially like free agents. They fall wherever, right? Marines are in this interesting spot because they are it's a gigantic organization that controls the world, and it's filled with characters who believe they're fighting for justice, but what that means to so many of them, but inherently they're upholding a terrible regime, right? But most of them are in the Marines believing that they're doing the right thing, which inherently makes them more morally interesting than most pirate villain groups, because with the pirate villain groups, at the very least, it's not like the Beast Pirates think that they're like, you know, like good guys or something. Like they get off on the fact that they like destroy shit, you know? Whereas the Marines, they truly believe that they're helping the common man with everything that they're doing. The Marines are the most morally interesting group in One Piece. They've got such a wide range. They've got everything from like Kobe, Smoker, Fujitora, Kizaru, Aokiji, fascinating characters, all the way over to Akainu. You've got great characters like Garp and stuff like that. Even if we ignore all the good Marines, like let's say you ignore all the sword characters, that still leaves us with a lot of fascinating characters in the Marines. The Marines are just, as a villain group, they're not really fair. So, you know what? I'm just going to go ahead and do another row above. Call that for the Marines, right? What color? Whatever. We'll just, yeah, whatever. SS, Marines. I think Marines just go up there. Like, you can't even compare, you know? Marines are just awesome. Yeah, I think Baroque Works is really cool. Yeah, Marines are just they transcend just being a villain group, I think. CP9 I think is S. Thriller Bark Pirates, I think they're B. I think that they yeah, I think they're B. I think they're fine. We'll get to the Toby Ropo later. Don Quixote Pirates. Let's look at the priests first. I think this is another B group. Okay, we'll get to the Gods Knights later. Let's keep it in order. Blackbeard Pirates. I think Blackbeard Pirates are... No, they're just too cool. They are cool. They're cool. They just don't feel endgame cool to me just yet because they've got so many bums in their group. But just the Blackbeard hard pushes how cool they are. The core members, Van Augur, etc., are really cool. It is just always fun when the Blackbeard pirates show up anywhere. They're an S tier. They're an S tier. Don Quixote pirates. I'm gonna put an A or S. Let me ask you guys. Don't slander Moria the hero. Yeah, that's fair. Hold on. Don Quixote pirates. No elaboration on why you're placing things in S. I feel like CP9 doesn't need a reason, right? CP9 just CP9, right? Like phenomenal. Like every CP9 member is iconic. I would argue. Like every CP9 member, like leaves a like a distinct sort of memory. You know, I think that's rare to say of any villain group. Almost every CP9 member got a really great fight. That's very rare to say for any villain group. Fighting style, the arc, the context that it takes place in, many would still argue is the most dramatic battle the Strahds have ever had. Yeah. All right. Keep Don Quixote pirates there. Oh, do you guys want Don Flamingo? I don't think Don Quixote pirates go lower. Yeah, I think Crocodile is a better villain than Lucci, but and Mr. One probably. Do we want to bump Baroque Works up? Tiptia, thanks for the 2. How do you think hypothetical Seraphim Strahd matchups? It's so hard now. Even little things that come up, like, okay, what about the concept of Omen, right? How does Omen play into things? I don't know. It's so difficult. When I first did the video on the Seraphim matchups, I felt confident on how things matched up then, when I put that video out. Now it's trickier. I think Sanji's a difficult missing piece for me, because I think a lot of characters line up well aside from Sanji. Zoro Mihawk, right? Sanji, I don't know, because Sanji, I think the natural fit would be Doflamingo, but Doflamingo's so much weaker than Mihawk that, like, it just wouldn't be right for that to be Sanji's final opponent, you know? Regardless of how big the gap you think between Sanji and Zoro is, it's not that big that Zoro's fighting the world's strongest swordsman or whatever, Lunarian form, and then Sanji's fighting, like, just a souped up version of Doflamingo. So I think that's the tricky thing. But beyond that, you know, you get Jinbei versus S-Shark. Oh, sorry, my neck. Yeah, just go down the list. Moria, Brook. You get some sort of rematches, in a sense. And I think a lot of those line up pretty nicely. Crocodile Robin, especially because Vegapunk couldn't replicate the Logia stuff, so Crocodile wouldn't be able to use that. And a lot of people think that, you know, Crocodile's true form is a woman, so Oda likes his woman-woman matchups. Hancock, Seraphim Hancock would rebel, and I think Seraphim S Bear would also, as long as Bonnie's around. Yeah. Okay, people want Baroque Works in S. Okay, we can do that. I'm gonna move the Blackbeard parts up. The Blackbeard parts are pretty cool. I mean, this isn't ranked. I would argue the Big Mom Pirates are also an S. Big Mom Pirates are really cool. I think the Big Mom Pirates are a much cooler organization than the Beast Pirates, but the Beast Pirates are still gonna put an S. I feel like everything's going in S. Toby Ropo, I'm gonna Holy Knights. I'm gonna go ahead and put an A. How's that feel? And then where do we want to put the Gorsay? Taptio says, could Sanji fight an Ace Seraphim as a final fight? That would be insane. I don't think so. I don't think so. I don't know. I don't think so. I don't know when they would even have gotten an Ace Seraphim. I do wonder if they've managed to make a Hanafuda Seraphim. That'd be a surprise Sanji pick, but I don't think so. Yeah, where do we want to put the Gorsay? I feel like if we did the Celestial Dragons just as their own group, so Emu plus the Gorsay plus the Holy Knights, then that'd also be an SS. Alright, we can put the Gorsay in A. Yeah, this feels kind of right. Just terrible villain group. Then this is like the basic East Blue setup, which is just like just a few characters or whatever. This is where this is kind of I would argue that this is kind of like the one plus a few setup where well, I guess these also fall in the one plus a few setup where it's like one captain plus like a handful, like 3 to 4, you know, officers. But these are just more memorable and more of a threat than these guys. Then this is where you're getting a little like these characters in all theory could be S, but like there's something holding them back. Doflamingo's family very big, but not most of the characters kind of just went out kind of in not very impressive. Like they were essentially Grand Fleet fodder, right? Only Senior Pink really stands out as a great character. Holy Knights, you know, they're strong overall, and we haven't met all of them yet, so there's still more to go. But they've been outshadowed this arc by Emu, and for whatever reason, we're putting Emu into a separate sort of group. The Gorsay, same thing. This just isn't. This is fundamentally not fair. This is fundamentally not fair. These groups are being judged without their boss, whereas every other group gets their boss, you know? And they're being judged piecemeal, where it's like, you know, these groups are all in groups, right? Like, it's not like we're separating out Sweet Commanders or like Calamities and Tobiropo and stuff. This is fundamentally unfair. So, you know, there's nothing to be done. These just fall into this tier. And these are kind of like One Piece's great villain groups, right? The classic villain groups, Baroque Works, CP9, Blackbeard Pirates, right? I think Blackbeard Pirates are really great the more I think. Like, it is just always exciting when the Blackbeard Pirates show up somewhere. I think it's more of a sum greater than the whole of its parts sort of scenario with the Blackbeard Pirates, where like, yeah, if Vasco Shot shows up somewhere, he's likely getting fucked. Yeah, if Jesus Burgess shows up somewhere, he gets kind of embarrassed or whatever. But the overall vibe of the Blackbeard Pirates and the fact that generally speaking, even if they're kind of hit or miss, they're making big moves, they are really, really cool as a villain group, right? CP9, just best fights across the board, most dramatic and powerful Straw Hat showdown ever in the series. I think each CP9 member is very distinctive and memorable. Big Mom Pirates, most missed potential for any villain group in the story. Such a Oda went wild with the designs, concept, crazy, kooky, eclectic bunch. Some phenomenal characters like Katakuri. But even just like which villain group had like their fourth strongest character, like Cracker, give Luffy basically an extreme diff fight that he needed Nami to bail his ass out on, right? Like, just the threat of the Big Mom Pirates felt really high during Whole Cake Island, just kind of got neutered towards the end, and then they just became a joke in Wano. Beast Pirates, first classic sort of Straw Hat showdown in the New World. mixed bag, I'd say, with the Beast Pirates, but overall, and like not every fight gave us a good Strahd fight like CP9, but you know, Kaido's there, King's there, it's some cool stuff. Uh, Marines, just phenomenal organization, period. Like one of the best villain organizations of any story that I've experienced personally. Uh Oh, Spurs are winning. Good shit, good shit. All right, everybody. With that, I am gonna go watch the Spurs game. Only because they're winning, and so I've got some hope. All right, everybody. I hope you guys enjoyed this stream. And yeah, how are the Beast Pirates on the same tier as CP9? I mean, aren't they similar? The Beast Pirates are a much bigger organization. I think they're on the same tier because they're not on the same tier as like the Doflamingo Pirates, you know. Beast Pirates generally gave us like some pretty good fights. Luffy and Kaido in particular, right? Zoro versus King, Sanji Queen, Robin Black Maria. You know, then some of the Tobiropo were bums or gave us bad fights like Who's Who, Sasaki, Ulti Page 1. So I don't think they're as good as CP9, but I don't think they're a full tier below. I think it's similar, but just a bit worse overall. You know? But I think as a villain group, they're similar, you know? Like, put it this way. I think a lot of things were bad with Wano. I don't think the Beast Pirates were one of them. You know? Like, I think that as a villain group, they were solid. I do think it's crazy that I would have to resort to, like, team kills. Like, Big Mom taking out Ulti and Page 1 and shit. When it's like, dude, you've written in, like, 50 million protagonists in Wano. Why do you have to do this? But, you know. Yeah. The Beast Pirates have like 3 cool and interesting people, and the rest sucked and had no character. I mean, I feel like you can dissect some of the villain groups and feel like where do you want me to put the Beast Pirates then? A tier? We can put them in A tier. Sure. I don't think they're I think that they're a step above the Doflamingo Pirates, but we can put them in A tier. CP9 have better personalities, interacting, and personal relationships. That's also true. I also find CP9 like really funny. Yeah, the Tobiropo fights that were disappointing. Although Jack's fight, like actually, I completely skipped over Jack. Like one of their 3 commanders wasn't even good. Here, okay, okay. Let me do a quick poll. Newport's Poppy, thanks for the 5. Bonnie will get S-Bear and all the pacifistas to fight with the revolutionaries in the final war. That would be cool. All right, we had all this back and forth just for you guys to vote. Oh, no, it's 50-50. Get your votes in. Get your votes in. Get the votes in. Get your votes in. I just think that there's a clear anomaly in these groups, which is the... Like, just look, all these other groups are function, like, structured the same way. Like, you got your leader and then your subordinates and all of that stuff, right? The Gorsay and the Holy Knights, I think we're doing them dirty. Like, it just doesn't seem fair to piece them out into two separate groups and remove Emu from them, right? At least give them Emu. Pick one of them. I don't care which one. Either make it Emu in the Gorsay or Emu in the Holy Knights, but like, this does not seem fair to me that every other group is like a whole group, and then this is just like we're separating it into 2 parts. Because it's not even like it's all a pyramid, right? You've got the Celestial Dragons. Among them, you've got Emu and his 13 Chosen, right? The 13 Chosen are 8 Holy Knights with deep sea contracts, and then above them, you have 5 Gorsay with deep sea contracts, so that's like the next level up, the pyramid. And then at the top, you got the boss, Emu, right? Like, isn't this... Logically, they should be together. I get why we separated them, because I, too, also subconsciously just consider the Gorsay and God's Knights their own 2 separate villain groups. But logically, it's all just one group. It's the classic One Piece villain structure, right? If the Marines are one group, then so are the Celestial Dragons, yeah. You could combine them and they still get to struggle to get above C tier? What? No. Emu plus the Gorsay plus the Gods Knights, that's like a phenomenal. That's like a cooler villain group than any of these. That's an easy SS tier. That's like a crazy cool villain group. I mean, like every Gorsay has like like the Gorsay alone have more aura than any individual group of like commanders that a villain group has, you know? And then you've got the Gods Knights as like when the version of the Toby Roppo is the Gods Knights, that's pretty cool, you know? All right, Beast Part stay in A. Aura that did nothing and is boring, lol. I mean, but like, point of comparison, right? Like, I mean, I guess we need more writing for them, but the Gorsay I feel like are way cooler than like Kaido's Three Calamities or Big Mom's like. I guess you got Katakuri, right? So maybe that's what I guess if that's what you guys are saying is missing, like one really well written, like individually really well written characters. But like, I mean, even I look at Baroque Works, it's like Mr. One. The Gorsay are like 5 Mr. Ones. You know what I mean? Like beyond Mr. One, you got like Miss Doublefinger, Mr. 3, Mr. 2. Mr. 2 is obviously a lovable character, but the Gorsay are like really cool as a like. I think they're the only villain group I can think of where because so usually what Oda does is like the boss is badass and then like you'll have like a couple of badass subordinates, but then beyond that you got a lot of goofy stuff. The Gorsay are like genuinely like the Gorsay are written like how Oda writes King and Mr. One and stuff, but all of them are like that, you know? I see what you're saying writing wise. Like if we want writing wise better characters, then that makes sense. But in terms of like just stacking up, I'm like King, Queen, Jack compared to like this squad's a lot cooler in my mind. Katakuri is obviously really cool, but then you got Smoothie and Cracker, right? And then after that we got guys like Streusen and Snack. Like, the Gorsay and the Gods Knights are clearly cooler than that group, right? Baroque Works, I guess, zany, lovable, etc. CP9, we spent more time with them. But definitely compared to, like, Blackbeard's bums, like, come on, like... and Emu's part of the group, right? Like, that's... I feel like Emu and his 13 Chosen are pretty crazy. I don't know. I guess from a likability standpoint, I guess you could say like we just have not spent too much time with the Gorsay or the Gods Knights. That's fair. Design wise, they're not all that except for News Juro and Mars. I mean, I think if you just group the designs together of all of these cast of characters, I think the Gorsay and the I think this is a lot of revisionist history. I think everybody. I remember. I'm a content creator. I remember how people nutted when we saw the designs of the Gorsay. Like and I think you guys even voted that as like chapter of the year just for the design. Like, what the fuck? That's this is revisionist history. I don't know what to say. Van Augur cooler than all the Gorsay combined. Yeah, I guess you could say that. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if like the more we get out of Garling or Shamrock, the more we change our mind, or Gunko. But I can see why you guys are saying that. But like I'm just saying by and large, I don't know. The Blackbeard parts are generally pretty, like, Shiryu's supposed to be the coolest guy in the Blackbeard parts, probably. I guess Laffy and... I don't know. I get what you guys are saying. There's more personality and likability for the other groups. I think that's fair. All right, everybody. I do want to wrap it up so I can go watch the Spurs game because the Spurs are winning, and that's all I really care about. I would never watch the game if the Thunder were winning. All right, everybody, but thank you all for tuning in, and with